So the first thing I want to show you is how to get to the BU SQL Sandbox. On the edX page, you'll go to courseware, and on the left-hand side at the top of the clickable items that list the modules and other things, you'll see the SQL Sandbox at the top. Click on the layman database, and then you'll enter the SQL Sandbox, and we'll go from there. I'm going to switch screens so we get a better view of the SQL Sandbox right now. So let's show you how the SQL Sandbox works. You should be able to find on your computer a section of the SQL Sandbox that looks like what you see on the screen here. And this is the layman database exploration mode. This is where we can play in the SQL Sandbox, generate our own queries, and enter our own queries against the database to grab different data from the layman database. One of the most important commands you'll learn in SQL is the show tables commands. The show table command. The show tables command will, when you run it, list all the tables in the database. And when you're getting to a new database, you want to see all the various tables that are there. So in the exploration mode, in the box at the top of the SQL Sandbox, enter show tables as shown. If you scroll down, you see a few things. Now I'm going to scroll down and hit this button down here called check. This is how we run different queries in the SQL Sandbox. It says checking and processing right here. You see the processing. We got a green check mark, meaning that the show tables command worked. There was no errors. And now let's look at the results. The results are below the query section. And now we get a response back from SQL which says tables in the layman baseball database. Here's a list of all the various tables that we've been referring to in previous videos. Here's the batting table that we talked about, the fielding table, and various other tables, managers, Hall of Fame, postseason fielding. We talked about the master table and the biographical information that's in there, and the pitching table. The pitching table as well. So what we also have here in the results of the SQL Sandbox is how many rows were retrieved from the query. So 24 rows are shown in the results page here. This is the page that we're scrolling through right now. That's the results page. We always get a report of how many rows we're showing in the results page. And now check is what we'll always use to run a query. Now let me make an error here and do a show table command. Run down here, do a check, processing. You get this here, the red X, meaning incorrect. And you'll usually get some kind of MySQL error message when the SQL Sandbox gets an incorrect query from the user. So remember the show tables command, very useful. And if you ever want to go into explore mode and check out all these other tables, remember the show tables commands to get a full list of all the various tables that are there. If you want to learn about a certain table, we have another command in SQL which will help us do that. It's called the describe command. I'm going to describe the batting table. We're going to use that often in this course, especially in the beginning. So here's the SQL command. Describe, and then the table name. In our case, in the layman database, we're going to look at the batting table. Hit the check button. It's processing. Now we get a green check mark. It worked, and we get all of the various fields. Remember we talked about the fields, or all the various columns. We get a type which tells us the kind of variable type that the field contains, that the column contains. So the player ID column is a character string of 9 long. The year ID is an integer, and you can sort of see the types of the various fields that are listed in the layman database batting table. This is a summary of the batting table. Remember we ran the describe batting table. go ahead and try to look at all the various tables in the database. We've given you documentation on the internet from Sean Lehman's site about these various tables, and go explore the data that's included in the SQL Sandbox here for you.